Hello everybody and welcome to Hometown Cable. Our program is called What's Going On Here. It's Sunday. My name is Bob Venn. Calvin Castine has the camera, and this is part 2 of we don't know how many parts. And that beautiful greenery you see up there is none other than Lyon Mountain. Lyon Mountain is not just a community, it's a mountain, and that is it. And the highest point up there to your right is Averill's Peak. That antenna you see is channel 57. They may not get a lot of channels here in Lyon Mountain, but they sure can get 57 real good. And what you're looking at is the road coming from the Plattsburgh area. It comes around that curve. On your left is the former Lyon Mountain High School. Now the correctional, what do you call it? Lyon Mountain?
Lyon Mountain Correctional Facility.
Lyon Mountain Correctional Facility here with about 250 inmates, medium or less security. All these homes on the right we talked about on last week's program, or the program number 1, were all company-owned houses. Everything was company. These are all alike pretty well, and they were duplexes. And we're standing here on the main road, Route 374. And there's 2 people here with us. Pivetta?
Pivetta.
Oh boy, I thought I had it down good. Pivetta and Walter Bingel. Walter Bingel didn't make the last meeting. He got there a little late. He'll be with us in this segment along the way. And just to find out a little bit about Walter. Walter, tell us a little bit about yourself. You worked in the mines?
Well, I worked in the mines. I've lived here all my life. I'm 83 years old.
Everybody else told us how old they were. Yeah. Good, you're 83. You're the oldest.
Yeah, well, no, I have a brother that's older than I am, John.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, that talked to us.
Oh, talked to, yeah.
Tony was the oldest previous to this. Okay.
And I worked 30-some years in the mines, and I'm an electrician. And I belonged to the Plattsburgh Local 781 when the mine shut down. I usually went to work on construction. I kept my card up. And
so you worked after it closed in '67?
Right.
You continued to work?
I worked in Local 781 in Plattsburgh.
So as an electrician, you were in the mines and out of the mines. You went all over the place, and you kept it electrified.
Electrified, yeah.
All right. The wind is pretty strong out here. We want to just show you where we are, as we're going to go show you some other pictures here and around. In the background is the entrance to the Lyon Mountain ball field. Everybody knows about the ball field, and that'll be another one of our segments about the athletics and the great athletes here. And also a man by the name of, anyone ever hear of a man named Hamilton?
Yeah.
John Hamilton.
John Hamilton, boy, what did he do?
He was the coach up here at Lyon Mountain.
He sure was, and he had a big family, 9. As a matter of fact, Mrs. Darcy Castine in Champlain is one of his daughters. And this is what church we have right here?
Methodist Church.
The Methodist Church. And remember, we told you about 97% at one time were Catholic, but this is the Methodist Church, started in about 1880.
That's right.
In the area. Started with 6 members and went as high as 141. The main road going out toward Merrill and out toward Brainardsville is heading in that direction, a westerly direction. And up on the hill, the stone church is St. Bernard's. It had burned back in 1901-02 and it was rebuilt. And in there it has been ever since, and well known for the book they put out in 1975 called A Century of Mining Souls or something like that. The Reverend Howard McCaslin. So that's where we are. Where we're going to go now, if we go back over here toward the east, there's a road that turns. You can see that street. Well, that's a road that turns up called what? That goes off to the right.
Well, we call it like First Street, but then we have to bear left, which is Mine Hill.
Okay.
And we'll head towards Mine Hill, and probably do some walking in there and see some of the sites where the original mine shaft was.
Okay, so what you're looking at is most of Lyon Mountain I used to think was right here on Main Street. Of course it isn't. There's a lot of it up in the back off to the right, and that's where we're going to head up, and we wanted to just show you where it is in proximity. If you follow around that curve, you go down into Shazy Lake, and then you get in near the Plank Road, they call it, the road to Ellenburg, and then it goes straight down into Denimora and into Plattsburgh. But we're going to stay on this side of the mountain. Standish is off to the right over that mountain, is about 3.5 miles. We're going to go over there and take some pictures. Although we've only driven about a half a mile, you can see how we've risen. The steeple you see way in the background is the Catholic Church. So you can see we've come to the east, a little bit further south. We came up the street. We're looking at some things. Now, to show you that things haven't completely come to a standstill here in Lyon Mountain, there's a new house going up here at the end of this street. A two-story house. It's a nice view overlooking. Now, where we are is a road with a, you call this slag? What do we call this stone?
Well, this is ore sand.
Okay, ore sand, and you can see this is the mountain we're looking at off here, and we're going to go up off in here for a while. And what did you got in your hand? Can you want to see? Show us
Okay,
that?
this is probably just a rough piece of ore, but you can tell by the heft of it. That's
okay.
The difference between a regular rock and iron ore.
That's the type of thing they would have got out of the mine.
That's right. You can.
Okay. All right, Walter has been looking around here, and he found this piece of what I would call stone, but you called it
A dike.
Dike.
That's what they call it in the mines.
What does that mean?
Well, there's no ore at all in there.
There's no ore.
No
That's a
ore, waste product.
Huh?
And it's hard to drill.
Now, because it's so flat, that mean they cut it? Looks like it's been sawed?
That's the way it's been shaped. It
Just
falls
shaped
out that way.
It fell out that way, yep. Very, very coarse and very heavy. Very, very heavy. So you're telling me, as we were coming up here, that this was the main entrance, right? To the main shaft.
Yeah.
We came up that road where we just saw that new house, and this was the main entrance and the parking lot and everything else. We came up here, and this was the mill up here.
Dry house.
The what?
The dry house. They call it the change house.
Okay, and this is where these two buildings, or those two different roofs, and that's where the mine shaft went down?
Well, that's where the heist, that's where your motors were, and the shift wheels that allowed the skips to go over. They used to go over the top of the road, and they'd go down into the mines. We'll go up in there.
Okay. We'll just walk along here, and you can see there's a lot of opening up here. When we're up pretty high here. Now this is tarmac here, I take it.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is all tarmac,
What?
nicely, you know.
Uh-huh.
And that was the parking lot.
It's nearly 30 years since this has been really used at all, correct? Huh?
The town uses this.
Oh, the town does use it?
Oh yes, they travel this. This is our chlorination plant.
Okay, for the community?
Community, yeah. They chlorinate the water there, and it
Okay.
goes down into the.
So the water comes in out of the mountain?
Well, no, there's a dam up here. It's dammed up, and it comes from what they call a new dam, and it comes piped into here, and from there it goes into the.
Would you call that a Shazy Lake?
What's that?
That come from Shazy Lake? No.
No.
It's another dam.
Yeah, that
Okay.
comes from the mountains. The water comes from the mountains.
Okay. Vest is walking.
This was all your parking lot.
This is the park. Yep.
And that side was the parking lot.
Uh-huh. So there were hundreds of cars in here, or
Yes.
could very well be 100 or 200 cars in here.
Well, they had quite a few of them in here during the war. You know, they were all here during the war, most of them.
Did this bother you at all when they closed and see all this history and all your family that works here for so many years just stop?
Well, yes. It gave you a funny feeling. You know, you were wondering what the older people were going to do. Most of them didn't have any trade at all, only mining,
Yep.
so they couldn't go out and
Yep.
make a living. They
Yep.
had to go as a laborer, you know. So yes, it did bother them.
That was my next question. Were you concerned about yourself making a living?
Not really.
Because you had
Not
an
a
electrician's trade, and you belonged to the union even then,
Right,
so you knew you were going to get your share of work.
right. Yeah, I put in 17 years for the union.
Uh-huh. Now, when you say the union, means after you left here?
After I left here, off and on, you know,
Uh-huh.
from the time that the mines, we had strikes up here and everything. In '46, we had a big strike for 6 months.
Yes.
And then I went out and worked, and when the mines started, I came back.
So during that period, you were able to go out and get another job as an electrician. That was legal for you to do?
Right.
Uh-huh. Now, this is falling in.
Oh, I wonder.
You can see what happens over a period of years, folks. Just decay.
This year it was a boiler room,
Uh-huh.
and I wonder, just a minute, Bob, let me see if we can get anything in here.
What's his first name? Yeah, Leduc.
Used to be-
Jack LeDuc, yes.
Yes, it used to be a change house, and he was here when it was still up, and I took him through, and I showed him where they went down into the mine.
So what do you mean change house? This is where they change their clothes and
Right.
get ready to go down?
Yeah, they'd come in with good clothes, and then
Uh-huh.
they'd put on their work clothes and go down the mines.
Now there's an awful lot of air vents on top. Is that where the air came in and out of the mines?
Well, the miners' clothes were wet, and they had steam heat in there, and they gave them a lot of
Oh, that's what all those were for, yeah.
ventilation.
Yeah. And that was stucco building, obviously. And we're
Yeah, I thought that was still there, but I
Yeah.
was going to take them in
It's
there.
gone, yeah.
that's
But
gone too,
I
huh?
want to get a good shot of Lyon Mountain one right here.
Oh yeah, this is
If you look at the big building here, look at the skeleton,
Yeah,
you know.
that was the main storehouse.
right. Vests work with these vests.
No.
Now, were there any railroads up here that took the ore away from here?
Oh yes, you had a railroad track.
That was it right through there.
Yeah.
Okay. So most of the ore that left this area came from right in there?
Well,
Or was it loaded someplace else?
no, they let's see now. They mined it, went through the mill. From the mill, went to the sintering plant. Then from the sintering plant, it was shipped out to Buffalo or Troy.
But from this general area up here?
Right, right. Everything was right in this area here.
You'll notice how far the slag pile is way off to your left. It's a long way off. Of course, we're on one now, too.
Oh, this is all grown in. When I had Jack up here, the trees weren't that high, you know. You could really
Yep.
get a nice shot. No, it's all
Isn't there
grown in.
something no?
Yeah, oh yeah, gorgeous, yeah.
Yeah, it's all grown in. Before you could see all those houses down there where we left Belmont. It's all grown in.
Yeah.
I haven't been here in 5 years myself.
What you're looking at down below here is the ball field.
Yeah.
So when you'll see a picture later that's taken from behind that area up in this direction, and you'll see this pile on an old picture taken in the teens, I guess, or 20s. And what a great view from here. As we look off, I assume that west is over there, the general area to our left, and east to our right, and Plattsburgh heading off in that direction. You don't see a lot of open land anywhere when you're getting up here, of course.
All grown in.
Mhm.
All grown in now. It's amazing how trees can come and
It's unbelievable.
You,
Yep.
you ought to see the view here
Oh,
in
jeez.
October when all the leaves are turned. I mean, it's
I've been up here, yes.
unreal.
Now, does any of this stone being used for anything at all today?
We use it in a town to sand the roads and.
You don't ever use
In
it
fact-
to mix with anything, right?
Oh yeah, you can use it to make cement. In fact, the town has sold a lot of this sand to a Canadian company that's making shingles, I believe. Isn't that right,
Yeah,
Walter?
they're
Oh,
They're
yeah?
making some kind of a roof shingle.
Uh-huh. Do any of these man-made mountains here used for skiing? Any
No,
of those slag
no.
things? No.
Well, kids use it, you know. For,
Yeah, but there's no really
three-wheelings,
nothing set
but,
up, huh?
No.
Yeah. Well, I've seen the three-wheelers on it. They go crazy up on
Oh,
those hills
yes.
with those three-wheelers. Yep, it's really something to look at that building over there. Now, what are we looking at over here? Was where they loaded the trains on the right? It looks like something went underneath.
Well, that first building there was what they call a crane shed. That's
Okay.
where they used to keep their crane in there.
All right.
And now and the railroad track went right in between the two buildings
Mm-hmm.
when they had to unload anything. And if it went through the tunnel, it went all the way through what they call a machine shop. Used to go right up through up in the upper end there, and they used to store their cars up there.
And what did they do with the main building?
This is a warehouse.
That was a warehouse.
Storehouse.
Storehouse. But there's about 1, 2, 3, 4 stories.
Yeah, we can get
in
it
that-
closer if you want
you
it.
can? Okay.
Store.
We moved about 200 feet here further to the west, and now you can look right over the top of the prison, the former high school. And the row of houses on your left, you can see them all in a row. And then the Catholic Church straight ahead, and off to the left there, the white building is the Methodist Church. And the road going out toward Merrill and Brainersville and Chateauguay in between goes into Chateauguay Lake. And you know, as we talk about trees and erosion and why it's important to have things, you'll notice here where there's nothing to stop it, how it wears away with the rainwater coming down here. That's what you call erosion. And that's why it's important that we have things along the sides of mountains and everything else. You don't just clear all the trees because you don't want stuff like that to happen. as we're walking toward the building, we're talking right now with Walter Bingel, and he was just saying how things have changed since he was up here with Jack LeDuc from Channel 3. Our own Jack LeDuc, who lives in, I think, Saranac Lake now. And how things have changed over the years so quickly. And you wouldn't think that things can just stop. You know, they say it's too much investment for them to leave, but don't mean a thing, does it?
Doesn't, no.
We lost Harris Corporation in Champlain. It just seems impossible. So many families work there, and they're 3 generations, and they're gone. It didn't mean as much of a drop for us as this did for you, because this was Line Mountain.
Right.
And so all you got left are those nice people now, but you're doing pretty well, I think, up here now. The community's
yes.
doing well. It's well painted. It's attractive.
Yeah, they're improving all their homes.
Yeah. And must be pretty good things about health up here, because as an 83-year-old person here, you're leading me all over the place.
Finally get a picture of that mill number 3, 1917. That's when
Up there, yes.
See the lettering on that?
80
Yeah.
years old.
Get right over here, Kevin. You can see it.
Up there it says CO, and that must be the Chateauguay Ore.
Yeah, Chateauguay Ore and Iron Company.
An iron company above it, and then it says mill number 3, 1917. Probably was a great looking thing in its day. Everything was all kept in shape, I'm sure, like these companies did. All the piping, and you can see some of the broken windows and what's left of mill number 3. And if you look over here, Calvin, we have a swinging arm that's very, very heavy, but it already swung over to the right. Now it's coming back this direction with the wind. We don't know what that was, some kind of a carrier out in the end, but it's making the sweep, and then it goes back again. You'd swear it's like perpetual motion. Fast, you know what that arm was for?
Like I said, this was a storehouse.
Okay.
And they use a lot of these beams and angle irons and hooks to unload material,
Yep.
or load material when they took it out.
See how that wind is moving that back over again, and it's going to end up here, Calvin, just a second. It's going to end up as thing, and you'll hear it clang.
This building is pretty dangerous because, as you can see, the steel is all rusted and a lot of bolts are gone. And some of this could fall over anytime.
Yep.
But we'll go in the other building. The other building is where the men used to go down to work.
Okay. The wind is probably blowing into the mic here. Can't help that. Okay, we're standing just outside of the building that they said they used to use for changing.
Right, a tunnel, you come right in there, that's where we change.
Yeah.
And the skip would be below us here, we get in and go underground. And this here
So like an elevator was here or something?
Yeah, and this on surface here used to bring the material right here, and from here it'd be transported down into the mines. This is all a steel platform.
So this was like the main opening to go down?
Right.
This was the main opening.
Right.
If you remember, we were talking with Charles and Carl about that, and we were talking and what would happen and how the shaft went in about 70%, and this is where we are, right here. It's all been filled in and covered.
On an incline. I forget what it is, 62% or something on the incline. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, he was saying about 70. That's all.
Yeah,
and then over here is where they changed, and then came in this direction.
You can see.
Can you see anything in there? Okay.
I don't know if you knew the way a dry house worked. When a men used to change clothes right
Just a second, yeah.
They'd hang up their clothes up in a chain, up in a pulley.
Yes. Look at all the
And,
pulleys.
you know, some of the miners probably had $300-400 in their pocket.
Uh-huh.
They'd put it on a chain and haul it up, way up to the ceiling, and put a lock down below. So all their clothes used to be hung up on the ceiling. Nobody could get to their clothes.
Yeah. And this was all open, like this,
This
complete
was all
open.
open. They had showers here.
They had showers along, and that is where they did their changing.
That's where we used to go into the skip.
That's
Okay. If you look off here, you can see the opening, the door. That was the entrance to the mine shaft. The shaft was just a little bit up further, but that's where they went after they changed their clothes, got out of their street clothes and came in here. And that's very unusual to see all those pulleys up at the ceiling, huh?
It says entrance to mine.
Huh?
It says entrance to mine right on it.
Yep. Part of history right here. Many people never saw this, and a lot of those who saw it wish they hadn't seen it. It was not the most. When they left here, they were leaving light, the very best fresh air, and they were going down to what they didn't really know what was going to happen, right?
Right.
How much time of your time did you spend down below, and how much above the surface do you think?
Well, I spent most of it underground.
Most underground.
The only time we come up here is if we needed supplies. We'd go up into the warehouse and get them, and we'd come down with our supplies.
And go back. How many electricians would you have in a shift?
At one time, during the war, we probably had about 8 of them.
8 of you.
And then when the mine shut down, there were only 4 of us, and
Now,
a foreman.
When you say electrician, you didn't just ring the wires. If you had something electrically wrong with the machine, you also took care of that.
The pumps, the telephone, scrapers, anything electrical. We did. We had towards the end there. We had dial telephones down there.
Mm-hmm. Did you enjoy your time?
Yes.
It wasn't the best. It wasn't the best thing, but you have good fond memories of it.
Right.
Any of your relatives work down there with you?
Well, the only yes, I had 2 brothers that worked there. One was a driller, and one was working in the drill shop. Remember Tony?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. He worked in the mines. My younger brother,
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had 2 sisters and 3 brothers. 4
again, a family of 6, huh?
Right.
Yep. Well, that's very interesting. We really appreciate seeing this. Go along here. You're coming up with new things. Come on right along. Well, you were saying when you first went down, there were carbide lights?
Carbide lights. Use carbon. Use these lights, and you use water and a carbide to make this little flame. And this is what gave you the light in the mines. And you had to have water. Just think what you did. If you didn't have any water to put in there, they wouldn't operate.
Yeah.
You bring canaries?
Did you have a canary? Make sure you had enough good air? No?
No.
You didn't
well,
have
they had good ventilation. They had a lot of fans.
They did have a lot going on.
Yeah, they had a lot of...
and who kept those fans going?
We did, electricians.
Electricians, you want to believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this building over here now, you say was...
It was a heist room. This is where the engineers sat in there, and they operated the skips from there to let the men down and heist the ore up.
Okay, and I think you mentioned this is where Mr. Rounds...
Mr. Rounds worked in here for
Right.
many years, eh,
Teddy,
Walter?
yeah.
What was his name?
Leonard.
Leonard Rounds.
And you had old Fred Pashaw, Dominic Patnode.
Uh-huh. Now, Mr. Rounds died in the past 5-6 years, huh?
Right. Yeah, he was here quite a while. Yeah.
A good ball player. We'll be talking
Very
about him
good.
later on. He was a great catcher.
Yeah.
And so was his son, and so was his father. Look at the size of that little hook. And you can see from the walls, we aren't the only ones that have been in here. Wow. As you look down here, you can see some of the structure where I guess they ran their... My gosh, what did they carry with that?
They had those big generators.
Look at this. Yes. I won't stand under it, but look at the size of that hook. And you see above it the carriage that goes right and left, and then go forward and back, just like we saw when we were at the Harris building, the Kimpex building. They have these great big, what do they call that, Calvin? Cranes. It's a crane that goes. This one goes left and right, and that one went the length of the building.
To buy a hook like that today, you're probably right around $10,000-$12,000.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And the biggest unbelievable thing is, of course, everything happens, is that it's completely here doing nothing. All these things are hitting, the windows are cracked and broken, and but part of the great history started back in the early 1800s here at Lyon Mountain.
Size of those I-beams.
I'd say those are maybe 30 30-inch or 36-inch.
I'd go back and forth across it, move it.
What was this room?
Oh, this is pretty old, this building here,
Oh,
eh?
yes, it's,
Early 1900s?
yes. Probably
was it
earlier
used
than
for?
that.
How is it used?
This here, well, this is where it had all the electrical stuff here to operate those generators. They had a switchboard in there.
Uh-huh.
This is all full of switches in here. And they used that big hook and to, whenever they burned the motor out, you had big generators in here. That's how they get them out of there.
So you had several big generators in here?
Oh, yes, yeah. And you had a couple of them right in there, see where your
Yep.
gears are?
Yep.
And you used to stand right here, the operators. You had one for the mine skip.
The what?
The mine skip, this is the one that let the men down the mines. Then you had the other one here that brought the ore up out of the mines. You had two operators here all the time. One to let the men down, 3 shifts, and
Wouldn't it be great to have some pictures, video of something while it was operating? We just never know what's going to be here
the
tomorrow.
cables went right up through the roof, and I showed you where the shivs
Yep,
were, and they
yep.
go right in, right where we were standing was,
Wow.
we went down into the mines.
Yep. That's why the Hometown Cable and Calvin tries to get as many things and in depth as much as possible. We don't cut people short, whether you think it's important or not at the time and you think it's long. People have told me you get long on some subjects. We realize that. You can fast forward. That's what that FF means. But you can't replace it if you want it. You can never get more. You can only get what you took. And we're so pleased that we're here and people so interested to talk to us. And I can see that Mr. Bingel here is a world of information. And what a great memory. And 83 years old. And he'll be here the next time we come up. We'll be coming up here again and sitting down again, talking a little bit more about the operations. We really didn't talk about a whole, what happens when we go down the mine. We kind of visualized, if we could, what it means and how you start a shaft or a drift off to one direction and how you shore it up. We talked about those individual things, but we want to talk in general and continual about what happens. Hope you're enjoying this very special Lyon Mountain tour of the mines, brought to you by Hometown Cable. You know, we haven't talked a lot about Vest because he didn't work in the mines too long. His dad put the kibosh to his getting a job. Told the man not to hire him. He thought he should be doing other things. So you're going to tell us something about your dad.
Well, the stories, you know, a lot of old timers, they tell me a lot of stories about my father, but his hobby was chewing tobacco. And he chewed Havana Blossom 7 days a week. Smoked cigars halfway, cut them, chewed cigars, but his favorite was he had a big corncob pipe. And he smoked it, and then he dried it out, cooled it off, and he chewed the inside of the pipe. That was his favorite. But some of these stories are history. It's, you know, unbelievable. And you can ask Walter.
Now you see,
Walter worked with him, so
Absolutely, about that cigar,
Yeah.
he smoked half and he chewed the rest of it.
you see, whether those are true or just good stories when it's about your parents or your relatives, I think they're great. And it's part of the mining tradition here. And these were not Casper Milk Toast people here. These were, you guys worked, huh?
Right.
You worked a full 8 hours.
Especially Bet's father, he was a mucker. The people that go in there, the drillers would drill this stuff up and they'd blast it. And his dad used to come in on the afternoon shift with a wheelbarrow and wheel it. They'd start probably at 30 feet and in the end they'd up about 200 feet, dump it in the hole. They had to have this place ready for in the morning so the drillers could set up and drill another round, they called it. So he was a hard worker.
he liked to shovel. That was his favorite. They called him the best shoveler, hand mucker they ever seen in the mines.
When did your dad
He and
die?
my uncle. 1989
Oh,
in
so
Italy.
you've known.
Sure.
That's right. He moved back to Italy, so you knew your dad well,
yeah.
and were able to go over some of these stories with him
sure,
and so forth,
sure.
right?
So you didn't know him until he was 10 years old.
Oh, that's right.
I didn't. That's
When
right.
he was 10.
Well, yeah, that's right. But he was there when he was born. Just about. You met him when you were you met him when you were 10 because
Well, my father left a month before
you were
I
born.
was born,
Yeah.
and I met him again 10 years later.
Well, he found out they were having a son, and he said, "I don't want no part of that."
Probably.
So then he came over here, and it was 10 years before he saw the wife and family again. But these are things that these people went through. not only the hard work while they're doing it, but being away from their families, right?
Right.
And not even go home with them at night, and then send your money to Italy and keep going. It's very, very tough. The story of our history. I'm watching now the West, that taking place on PBS, an 8-part series. Not so much. It's a lot about the Indians and how cruel we were and how unhuman we were to the Indians, and the things that the people who went west had to endure, the families and how they died on the way there. It's incredible. And we got it easy. We're here in Lyon Mountain. We're having a great time. We're going to walk back to our car and go over and see the powerhouse.
And a sand pile.
Yep. The only powerhouse we got right here is Pivetta. We've moved up to the best known landmark in the area and probably in the whole county, and that's the sand pile, you call it.
We call it the sand pile, right.
And we're on I guess the south side of it here, or the east side of it. And that's an accumulation of many, many years, Walter, right?
Yes, very many.
And I understand there was a conveyor that brought up and kept just dropping it and dropping it. And they never disposed of any while it was here. Well,
not that I know of. They
Well, they sold some.
Did they sell
sold
some?
rock.
Yeah, they
sold
the roads and...
yeah.
Okay. So now that's a town of Denamore's front end loader, correct?
I think so.
And the town owns it.
That's right.
They use it for roads for the winter and for piles. And they also sell to others who are interested in buying that sort of thing. And I guess they can load it for them right here.
Right.
So and as Calvin says, we came up, once that's all gone, you're going to lose a great landmark, but you don't think it'll ever happen in your lifetime, huh?
I won't see it gone. I'll be long gone.
Yep. It goes way down. I mean, it is huge.
If you climb on the top, you'll get the nicest view. You'll see, I mean, for miles and miles and miles.
Mm-hmm. And no trees to bother you. These tracks you see over here on the right is not where they sell it. Those are three-wheelers.
That's right.
Who love this hill, and I'm surprised the town let them do it.
Well,
It's got to be dangerous.
I guess they're not supposed to do it because of insurance.
But they rip down there. You know, that's dangerous, you know. That keeps settling all the time, I suppose, as they take some, you know.
Yeah, slides down.
But it's a slow slide, right?
Right.
And this is the type of thing, I guess. Is that where that street is that I was talking about that's been covered?
Right behind this.
Right behind here, it has over the top is where it gradually settled behind houses and covered up the houses.
Yeah, they had to move out, and
They just kind of filled right in, and some they moved. That street's gone completely. It's underneath the pile. It's just hard to believe. Now, this big building is the power that ran everything.
that building there this is just a storage here. We can
Okay.
look into it. But down the main building that's where all their powers. They had compressors in there. They used to make their own air for the mines. They had 8-inch pipe, or 8-inch or 10-inch pipelines that went right down into the mines.
Now, they didn't produce their own power. They bought the power.
Yes, they bought.
They bought the power, then they produced the airs and the other things they needed, right?
Mine, right.
Okay. We'll take a walk over around here and see this big door. Maybe, and there's a gate there. I'm not sure it'll be open.
Town trucks are in here.
Town trucks kept up here. Probably locked then.
Front-end loaders and whatever.
The town of Denimora, Lyon Mountain's in the town of Denimora. Where does the town of Denimora end? Is Merrill in the same? That's in Ellenburg, isn't it?
Part of Merrill.
Merrill.
Town of Dannemora, and part is town of Ellenburg.
Okay. There's some more of their graders and things in this large storage building. You see, even on the side, starting to deteriorate here. That should be patched up because they'll lose it if they don't. That should be repaired. They gotta build. Don't see any dates on the building as to when it might have been. Now this must have been a roll-up door of some kind, because you can see the roller up there.
Metal door.
Metal door that rolled. But it's amazing, even brick, how it deteriorates. You see on the side here. I don't think anybody hit it. It just deteriorates with the weather. And history is decaying in front of our eyes.
Probably this building is just about as old as Bob.
Bob who?
Probably older.
Now, I said some nice things about that man so far today. Now, he said if we came up here, he would crawl through that from one end to the other. Who said that? Pivetta said that he would do that. If I used the small one.
Maybe I'll go through that one.
Yes, yeah. Well, I won't do that. I talked to you about claustrophobia. I can't imagine being down a half a mile. Gosh. Okay, this is where the entrance we came up, and then it's locked, and then the second one is the power building, as he mentioned. That's strictly storage, the one we saw. At the far end of the powerhouse, and what did you say this is? Now there's a dam here.
The old dam, this used to be the town water for years.
Mm-hmm.
Now we get it from the new dam.
Okay. And then I think Walter said they also use the water to cool off their equipment, generators. Water cooled. It's amazing how fast nature will come back and reclaim itself. Even the trees that are around are just growing. And you try to raise one yourself and you don't work all the time, but they're going to check to see if we have any access to the building. So we have some kind of a vet here coming out. No idea what this is for.
Okay, we've come along to the back of this building. Now that's
Yeah, when you look right into them, you can see the
This was a-
space where hockey used to be.
this was the hockey rink when you were playing.
Yes, this is where all our kids played hockey years ago, and it's going to be hard to see, but it's a pretty big building.
And what was it originally?
This was the powerhouse. Big generators and the big compressors to make air for the mines and so forth. You can see up on the top, they're still got the big lifts. I don't know if you can get.
Not sure if I can get the angle. I can see a crane there, but just barely.
Yeah.
This is a huge building too. I'd say 300-400 feet long.
As we were mentioning before, and it was indicated that Lyon Mountain is a very unique community because if you lived here, you worked here. You didn't live here and work out of town. You lived in a company house. It was owned by the company. You paid rent. In 1949, they built the last of their homes. Calvin was asking about what about as more people came. They built 40 homes. Just as you can see some of them down there, and just to the left as we go down here. And the community as we know it and the ballpark is off to the right on the other side of this sand pile. But this is the new section right along the road that goes out toward Standish. And in 1955-56 they started selling them to the people who were living in them. But you couldn't buy one unless you were living in it, and you weren't living in it unless you worked here. So it was a company thing all the way through, and it's so unique. It was a regular club. It was a club. Everybody who worked here didn't live here because there wasn't enough spaces. But if you lived here, you worked here.
You can probably put a comparison with Wyeth Harris. And imagine if everybody who lived in Rouse's Point worked at Wyeth Harris. It's the same type of thing here.
Yep.
Since the mine company owned all the land, they owned all the property, and you didn't live in this community unless you worked at the mine. And just amazing when you start thinking about something like that.
Absolutely. And not only am I enjoying what we're hearing, but it's just a gorgeous day here in Lyon Mountain. I would say the best day I've seen in 6 weeks. And I'm really enjoying this, and we have met some nice people, folks. Some real nice people who have been nothing but courteous to us, and we'll be meeting more as we come back the next time. Calvin's going to...
Well, since it's being shown in a couple of segments, we should point out again that we contacted Bill Bingel to get this set up, and he in turn got Vest Pivetta to line this up. So we want to again thank them for...
Yes, and that's Vest over there in the blue shirt on the right with the white hat. He's the one that set this up, and the gentleman on the left there, Mr. Walter Bingel, kind of thought it was tomorrow and didn't get there for the original meeting, but he's been talking to us now and will be in the future.
And you had to tattle on him, tell him.
Oh, I got to tell him. That's why he wasn't there. That's why he wasn't there.
But it's good for us that he showed up late because
Yes.
he was able to give us this tour.
Absolutely, and he's 83 years old, and he's acting like 63 out here on this trip. Okay, we're heading.
You know what?
I don't know.
I threw my arm out for Al Landry in Ross's Point when they played with the Mexico Stars.
Vest Pivetta showing his arm. He puts it over the top of that building. Now, Walter, I don't think we mentioned your nickname on tape. And by the way, Bob is taking a shortcut back to the car. People know you as Porky?
Right. 90% of them here in Lyon Mountain call me
How did
Porky.
you get your name, Porky?
I don't know. Yes, I've often wondered how I got that, and I never knew how that came about.
Now, you were just saying as Vest was throwing there that you threw your arm out.
Yes, I used to play with the Mexico Stars at Ross's Point. I was pitching, and I forget what inning it was. I threw my arm out.
And
So
once
that
you throw
ended
it out,
my-
it never comes back, right?
Never come back, and then I went into umpiring.
I thought when you lost your sight, you went into umpiring. You went in before you lost your sight.
Oh yes, yeah, long before. The eyesight is still good. Umpire's never wrong, you know, Kelvin.
I know that. I've been watching the Yankees in a few games there, and I recently because of the playoffs and because they're battling for the playoffs, and I've seen some strange calls, but the umpire's always right.
Oh, definitely. I never called a bad one in my life. I mean, in my own opinion.
Right. I don't know if Bob took a shortcut or not. He's not there at the car.
Yeah, that's shorter down there.
He's probably waiting at the corner.
No,
He's-
we'll pick him up here in the corner.
He's down near Standish.
Okay, we've come down to give you a longer shot view of that sand pile. We were on the other side of it. Now we're on the west side of it, and we're right next to the ball field. Just wanted you to see. A lot of trees have grown up here over the years, and you'll see another picture of this 50 years ago, 60 years ago later when we show you a picture of the ball field. One of the best ball fields, I would say, in the county or in northern New York, right here. And they used to fill those stands too, didn't they, huh?
Yes.
Everything was full on Sundays plus cars
Yep.
all the way around the fence.
And this is just off Main Street. The buildings just right behind you here are right on Main Street. And this, they got a fence all around. They had a great, beautiful stand, and they got the dugouts. And they had some great games. We're going to be spending quite a bit of time talking about that. But we're just about ready to wrap it up today in Lyon Mountain at 3 o'clock. Which means we've been here for 5 hours talking and listening and just enjoying ourselves. And right next to us here, as we close out, Vest Pivetta, who set this all up
Thanks,
for us.
Bob.
Thank you so much, Vest.
Nice
You've done a
having you
great
here,
job.
and you and Calvin.
we,
Nice, I enjoyed it, and I'll set something else up in the next couple of weeks for the baseball, Section 3.
and you and Calvin are great people. Say that.
You and Calvin are great people. Can you wind me up?
And Walter Bingel, thank you very much, Walt.
Thank
also
you,
a
Bob.
pleasure seeing you.
Pleasure
And
seeing
we
you.
hope that you're there early next time and that we'll get a chance to talk to you again. And we'll be looking at more pictures and get into more of a detail. We kind of scratched the surface of last week's program, and now we've seen some outlying. We're going to see some more of the outlying Denimora around Denimora town, but in the hamlet of Lyon Mountain. Remember, it was company owned, Republic Steel, up until
Right,
about 1957 when all the places were sold to the ones who were living in them. And we thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you here in the next week, 10 days, huh?
Thank you. And before you go, I'd like to apologize because we always beat Ross's Point, except once. They beat us in 1910. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
That's what Porky was
We're going to look at some clippings next time. We're going to see if this was really right or not. So this is Walter, if you pardon the expression. He's 83. I got to be careful. Porky
Thank
Bingel.
you, Bob.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.